Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. So here we are. This is your step-by-step example for your angle-angle similarity theorem workspace. So yesterday you guys went through the angle-angle similarity theorem. It was just kind of an introduction with Mr. Franz. And basically that spoke about how you can identify angles or triangles and their angles and how you can state whether or not they are congruent. So we're going to go through the step by step here really quickly, and then I'm just going to kind of walk through a couple things with the actual workspace. So over here, as always, on the left hand side is your little note piece. So let's read this. So it's a step-by-step example. So the given says BC is parallel, remember those two lines being parallel, to DE. So these parallel lines are cut by a transversal. So what type of angle pair is ABC and ADE? So that would make ABC and ADE corresponding angles. Are these corresponding angles congruent? So when you think about corresponding angles, we've been talking about this since the beginning of time, right? When we talked about translations, dilations, remember, whenever you literally just move a shape, corresponding angles, are they congruent? Always. Always. So now, how do we know that they are congruent? Well, they kind of told us right here. It says that ABC and ADE are corresponding angles. Well, if they're corresponding angles, an angle is congruent to itself. Well, we're not talking about that. We're talking about angle B and angle D, right, in this example. They're not alternate exterior. They're both they're in the relative same position. They're corresponding angles. So corresponding angles are congruent. So now we're looking at the example of BCA, so BCA and DEA. So we're looking at C and E. So are these two congruent? I would say so. Why? Because they're in the relative same position. So if I look here, well, they're not the same angle, right? We're looking at C and E. I'm going to say that they're corresponding angles again. Now, if you notice, this last question filled in automatically for me. Why? Because when you determine two angle pairs that are congruent, then you know the triangles are similar. And again, that's thanks to the angle-angle or the AA similarity theorem. So I'm just going to pull this up just so you kind of have an idea, again, of what this means. So basically, the theorem states that if two angles of one triangle are congruent to the corresponding angles of another triangle, then the triangles are similar. So it's kind of taking everything that we've learned about triangles so far, and okay, well, we know that the three angles of a triangle add up to 180. So basically, if we know that there's two angles that are the same in each triangle, then that means that they are going to be similar. And that shows it, and that proves it right here, right? We did ABC and ADE, and those two, B and D, are technically corresponding. Now, before we finish, or before we can say we are done, we have to do one last little piece, and it says, are triangles ABC and ADE similar? Well, we found that at least two of the three angles were congruent, so yes, they are similar. And remember, similar means that they are close to being the same. Now, again, when you have similar shapes, the side lengths are going to change, but your angles are always congruent. So the angles are always going to stay the same. So now let's go and let's just check out one of these other problems. So it says again, BC is not parallel to DE. However, we still have these few little transversals. So let's look. So we're talking about ABC and ADE. What do you guys think? So again, the way that you can identify which angle we're looking at, it's the letter that's in the middle. So we're looking at B and we're looking at D. Just looking at them, they don't look the same. B looks smaller, D looks larger. So A, B, C, and A, I don't think they're congruent. I'm going to say no. And how do we know that? Well, it is given that the lines are not parallel. I mean, that's something. These angles probably are supplementary since one is larger and one is smaller. I'm going to say that it's not because they're not parallel. So let's take a look at the last angle. So we have CAB and EAD. So that tells us that we're talking about angle A, right? Because CAB, EAD. So A is the one angle in the middle. Well, A is in the same place. So yeah, it's congruent, right? If it's the same angle, it's going to have to be congruent. So how do I know it? An angle is congruent to itself. Okay, but remember, in order to be able to testify whether or not an angle is similar or not, or if two triangles are similar, and we're doing the angle-angle similarity theorem, we have to have two angles that are congruent. Well, right now we have one that's no and one that's yes. So let's look at this one. We have BCA and DEA. So again, we're kind of using the same angle measures, or same angles that we're comparing. So looking here, BCA, so we're looking at C, and DEA, we're looking at E. So looking here, what do I notice? Well, again, they're not the same. They don't look the same measure. This one looks a little bit smaller than C. So I'm going to say that they're not. I don't think that they are. So let's see. Did I get that right? Yes. So again, why are they not? They're not parallel lines, right? The only way that we can have our corresponding lines, or our corresponding angles, is if we have parallel lines. That's the only way that we're going to get alternate interior, same side interior, exterior. You have to have parallel lines. Now, in this example, again, we're just focusing on the triangles. Well, we have two angles that are not congruent. So are ABC and ADE similar? Nope, they are not. So I hope that that clarifies. Now, as you probably see, you're like, well, Ms. K, you've already done them. Unfortunately, again, because this is what we call a mastery workspace, you're going to have to do 2 or 3 of these before you get these complete. And the way you can check is checking your progress. So 2 out of 4 skills mastered. So I've already been able to determine whether a pair of angles is congruent and identify the reasoning. Now I need to work on determining whether triangles are not similar and determine whether triangles are similar. So these are the last 2 skills I'm going to work on. So, you know, if you use a bunch of hints, you may end up having to do 5 or 6 different problems. Don't give up. Keep pushing through. This is why we're here to help you. If you have any questions, you know how to get a hold of us. Yeah.